what's up? Hello, I hope you all are doing well. Today's video is going to be interesting. One, because my glasses are giving off a great reflection, and two, because this is a book to series comparison of Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Some of you who are familiar with our channel may remember that I had a fairly, shall we say, lukewarm feeling about Shadow and Bone, the book. I was given this book by a friend, and then she subsequently sent me the rest of the trilogy as well as the Six of Crows duology. They used to sit right here, except for the fact that I have lent them out now. Anyway, if you are here because you love the books or you loved the television series, or both, I can't guarantee that this video is going to jive with you. It also will have spoilers for Six of Crows, just gonna say that up front. It will probably also have spoilers for the Shadow and Bone book and the Shadow and Bone first series, which is out right now. They're gonna make multiple seasons, but it will be very hard to talk about this without spoiling those three things. So if you don't want to be spoiled or you haven't read all of the books, this is probably not the video for you. And if you are looking for a really enthusiastic review comparison from someone who really loves all of those books and has read all of them that are in the Grishaverse, I would highly recommend that you check out Jananie's review from This Story Ain't Over. I'll link it in the description so you can have a look at that too. So to do this, I have to work on the presumption that if you are here watching this video, you are at least loosely familiar with the plot. Alina, orphan girl, discovers that she is a sun summoner. She is part of this different class group kind of people called the Grisha, and she is then absolutely wanted by so many people for so many different reasons. And throughout the course of Shadow and Bone, the first book in the trilogy, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, she goes from learning that she is a sun summoner to going to learn how to be a Grisha and supporting all of that takes and being part of the Second Army and making a choice about who she wants to be in her life, to eventually trying to work with the Darkling to alter the Fold, this giant expanse of darkness that has become a blight upon the land and is extremely unsettling for a variety of reasons. If I had to reduce it, that's what's going on here. That is the plot of the book. The first book in the series, which I thought was going to be all that we saw in this, is only from Alina's perspective, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's mostly first person, and because of that, there just really isn't enough going on in Shadow and Bone, the book, to translate it to an entire series of television. There's a lot of internal monologue and her learning to fight and her having these different conversations with and friendships with the girls who are also part of her order of Grisha, and her learning to use her power. All of that kind of comes very slowly, very reminiscent to me of the camping in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. There's just a lot of it. And meanwhile, she is being lured in by the Darkling, who is the general of the Second Army. And he is trying to sway her to his side, although she doesn't realize that. She thinks that she's just, found an equal. So all of that's going on in her head, and it's hard to translate that, I feel, to the screen without a voiceover. So ultimately, there's just really not enough of this book to make a television show, which I think is why the producers went in and added multiple perspectives. We see what's going on in the world. We get a little bit more context of what's happening in Ravka from characters in her story's perspective. For instance, Mal, her friend, and the Darkling, or General Kerrigan himself, and his backstory and sort of his motivations come to be clear. And that's helpful for someone who has only read the book. Like me, when I watched the show, I had only read this one book, and it was helpful to sort of understand other characters' motivations and really get sort of the emotional arc and depth that you don't get from just Alina's perspective, and you don't necessarily get until the end of the book, where you get bonus content, which I always kind of feel uncomfortable about. Bonus content, like extra letters or forgotten letters or deleted scenes or something like that, because if this is something that I can explore that's going to be helpful for me to understand your story, please include it in the original text. It doesn't make sense to me to have stuff left out in an appendice kind of way. So what they did with this was, as you probably know, was include characters from Six of Crows. a book that is the first of a pair, which is a duology that takes place after the events of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And for someone who at the time had only read the first book, I did not understand what was going on. I didn't understand why, like, the crow head was the whole symbol for the series. I did not understand who these people were trying to pull off a heist to steal her. I literally thought they had been invented for the show, and I didn't understand why there was a woman and an enormous, like, blonde man who were arguing and fighting for their lives across the Arctic tundra and on a boat. All of these people I thought were just invented for the show because there wasn't enough plot from the book to really make into a story. Lo and indeed behold, these are all characters from later on in the duology that is not part of the original series, Six of Crows. And looking back, now that I have read the rest of the trilogy, and I have read Six of Crows, and I'm right in the middle of whatever the second one is, I can understand why the producers went in this direction, because the way that this is done in the series sets them up for not having to explain it when they make Six of Crows into its own series, or as season 4 or something later on. Very clever. And it really brings some of those flashbacks with Nina and Matthias and that struggle to life. So well done. But for a totally novice viewer, I feel, who has either not read the books at all and is coming to this fresh with no prior understanding, it's not clear how the three storylines of Alina discovering her Sun Summoner powers and working with the Darkling and learning she's a Grisha, Nina and Matthias dealing with the whole Grisha are being hunted, Driscolla business, and the heist that Jesper, Kaz, and Inej are pulling off. It's not clear how those three stories from the show only interact or tie up. They're not strongly secured. It sets you up for having to wonder more about them frequently, like a magician's trick that's going to kind of pay off in an hour or so when he gets to the end of the show, which could work if we didn't have to wait multiple years for the rest of the show. If this is going to pay off because they've set themselves up really well for Six of Crows, way to go, great franchising work. But for a novice, no prior knowledge viewer, I don't know that that necessarily worked very well. And as someone who had only read the first book, expecting to see just the first book adapted for screen, so confusing. Actually so confusing. Didn't understand why they brought in all of these characters. They kept me hooked, which was great. Like, I wanted to know who the hell Nina was and why she was important, because that actor did an incredible job, but I just didn't understand why they had been added. It seemed like a really strange choice. And that was just me going in just thinking it was going to be the adaptation of one book. So some interesting choices there. Very clever in the long run, and they've totally done themselves a favor in that regard. But perhaps an interesting choice. But let's talk about the characters. Alina is really well played. I'm so sorry. I do not know any of these actors' names, and I do apologize for that. Like I said, I had a very kind of meh, lukewarm feeling about the book, and I was really glad that I watched the show because it re-energized my interest in this story. I think I actually liked the show more than I liked the book. I would not probably have gone on as soon as I did to read the next two books in the trilogy and to read the Six of Crows duology unless I had watched this show. Seeing it brought to life added such a depth and richness to all of these people that I don't think we got from the original text. All this to say, Alina, really wonderfully played. The woman who plays her is doing a fabulous job. She's walking that edge between unknowing and unsure, and then also sort of being really secure in her power, which can be a hard coming of age edge to walk, and this actor handles it really well. I do think that the compression of the series gets her to feel comfortable with her power really fast. We don't necessarily see her struggle with that too much. We see her struggle more with her feelings about Mal and being abandoned by him and feeling alone, but we sort of go from like, oh, I'm not sure how to use my power, I don't actually know how to fight anybody, I can't shoot a gun, to great, here I am, I'm ready to go, like, somebody give me an amplifier and I'll be fabulous. I also wish they had shown more about her learning to fight. Botkin, who's the teacher, like, shows up once, and he is so, I think, instrumental in the book. I was surprised he wasn't there more. And I think he also comes back later in the series. Like, something happens to him later in the series that I've already forgotten, apparently. And if he's not really ever gotten a mention, why even show him in the first place? Either cut the whole thing or do it right, I guess. Her friend Mal, his portrayal in the show was so much more likable than on the page. To me, he was really boring from Alina's perspective in the books, and it was nice to have him have like an emotional journey and understand where he fit in Alina's life and his own life and really develop his tracking power. The actor who's playing him does a really emotional job of it. Just incredible. The Darkling, General Kerrigan, whatever you want to call him. I was really confused about why they weren't calling him the Darkling a lot more up front, since that's primarily, you know, what he's referred to in the book. So there was a lot of General Kerriganing going on, which just kind of put me off a little bit. I was like, can we all just like call him what he is, right? Like, isn't this a commonly accepted name like Voldemort? But Ben Barnes brought that to life. From Prince Caspian in Narnia to this, like, wow, such a rich job of humanizing this person who's doing all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons and portraying an earnestness to the convincing that he's doing about his life, about the Grisha, for Alina, to sway her to his side. Again, having a talented actor be able to convey, alongside scenes which I think must be from some other stories or invented for the show, about his backstory and why he comes to feel this way about the Grisha and feel that he needs to do all of these bits and pieces and things to protect them. Just such an emotional depth that, again, does not come across in the book because we're not getting the Darkling's perspective. Having the multiple perspectives of this put in front of you in film is very impressive. It does what is not on the page and what's going on in the background context so much justice. And also his mother, Bagra, wow, I don't know who that woman is, but like, whoo, razor sharp, A+, love her. Cannot wait to see more of her. And I'm not really sure what to say about the Crow gang. Kaz Brecker, who is played by someone who just, to me, looks like a very gaunt, wide-eyed version of the Formula One driver Max Verstappen. That's what he looks like to me. I sometimes felt that he showed too much feeling for a character who is meant to be so cold. Again, just a testament to the humanization that acting can give to a person from the page. And Inej, wow. She and Nina became my two favorite characters in the show when I watched this, having only read one book. Now that I've read Six of Crows and I'm currently reading Crooked Kingdom, why can't I never remember the name of that book? I don't think that she could have been portrayed any better. The actor doing that job in the series is excellent and is going to have such a place to take that character as they continue this franchise. And then we come to Jesper, who I know that everyone loves, and I just felt that he was like the Ron Weasley of this story, the way that they wrote his lines. We all love Milo the goat, but Jesper becomes like the right-hand man and also the comic relief for Kaz sometimes and Inej, which is his personality. But now, having had some of the context of Six of Crows, like, I think that this previous part is underserved by that adaptation, unless they're looking to give him a bigger, longer developmental arc throughout, which maybe they are. But knowing the complexity and the depth of him from the story, interestingly, and seeing this on in a time before that story takes place, seeing it on screen, I just think he's not well served. He's played very well. The actor carries it off very nicely, but I don't know that we're necessarily getting the whole story from that characterization that we see on screen. And finally, we come to Nina. That actor she's like Inej, got so many places to take that character as she continues into future adaptations of this world. Like I said before, she's the one that really kept me interested. I was interested in that story, didn't understand at all why it was going on, was so confused about what they were doing there, thought she was invented for the show. But wow, if she had been invented for the show, I would have been okay with that if this is what the show had become in this weird, not just trilogy specific storyline. She is everything that is on the page, plus just extra, like the effusion that comes off of all of her facial expressions. So wonderful. So the casting in this has actually been really good. I don't know any of their names, but very, very pleased with it. And other than them adding plot from other books into a show that I thought was going to be about one book, there were some other changes that made me feel kind of weird about this. I'm not sure about like the hand touching There's a point in the show where they say, like, and you'll notice that I know that your hands have to meet first before you can use your Grisha power. So they always, when they arrest them or whatever, they make sure their hands are really far apart and they can't touch each other. But that I don't remember happening in the books, and I've read quite a few of the books now, and I am pretty sure that Grisha don't need to touch their hands together before they use their power, so I wasn't necessarily sure why that choice was made. I could be wrong. Maybe I just missed it, and I've been assuming that they can just, like, throw out fire or water or wind or whatever from nothing. But I really don't remember that being the case. So I'm curious as to why we did that. I'm also curious as to why they kept needing to harp on Alina being half Shu. Because in the book, I think she's just a Ravkan orphan. There's like no mention of her being half Shu, and it just feels like an open display of racism. I don't know if they were doing it because they felt they had to address that the actor is of Asian descent, or whether or not they just wanted to teach their white audience what a macro and a microaggression is. I just didn't understand why we needed to keep doing that. It wasn't from the text, and I don't really know what it added to the story. They also did something similar with Nej's character, and when one of the Grisha calls her Suli trash, I don't know why that was done. Like, why are we showing overt displays of racism without any necessary guiding message that demonstrates that racism is wrong? Like, maybe we can infer that, but if you're gonna show the bad stuff happening, can you at least say that it's bad? I guess maybe that's my point. Don't know why they spent a lot of time with that. Not a lot of time with that, but enough time that it felt significant. And I think my two last qualms with this were, like, one, how dare you reject David's gloves? I thought she loved the gloves in the book, so her being like, oh, well, no, not needed. I think I'm okay. I can split my, light in two. It's fine. I'm already there. Was just another serious compression of how good she gets very quickly, which I don't think she does get that good very quickly, but I suppose we are adapting for a finite number of episodes. And then also I think that they might have kind of screwed themselves on Marie's character. With the whole potential assassination, the person they kill is Marie, and she says to Genya that she wants to die with her own face, and we all see that it's Marie. But I'm pretty sure Marie doesn't die until the second book, and because of her death in the second book, it causes some other stuff to happen, which is necessary to the plot. I don't know why I keep making all these Harry Potter references. Much like Creature, they kind of screwed themselves over. Maybe that's too particular a detail, but I'll be interested to see how they handle it. Overall, I enjoyed watching this. It got me back into the story. It gave it a little more sense of adventure rather than like a internal coming of age, I'm the only one that can save the world, broody, angsty plot. So way to go, producers, for starting yourself off on an excellent franchise, but also confusing me in the process. Again, if you want a really enthusiastic review from somebody who is a big fan of these books and thinks that this is a wonderful adaptation, please go check out Jananie's video as well from This Story Ain't Over. Link is in the description. If you have thoughts about this, I'm sure that you do. You're welcome to leave them for me. I don't know how good my commentary back to you will be, but you're welcome to write something. As always, anything that you might want to know about us is, of course, in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having lovely weeks and lovely lives, and we'll see you very soon.